Most people believe power announces itself. They imagine confidence as something visible, a louder voice, a dominant posture, constant eye contact, the need to prove intelligence, status, or superiority. But psychology often reveals the opposite. The people who are easiest to manipulate are predictable. They display every emotion the moment they feel it. They react instantly, they explain themselves compulsively, they crave understanding, they seek approval without realizing it. Every visible reaction becomes information, and information becomes leverage. Then there are the men who slowly become impossible to read. Not because they are mysterious by nature, because experience has taught them that transparency is expensive. They stop broadcasting their intentions, they stop revealing emotional fluctuations, they stop explaining every decision, their silence forces everyone else to guess, and the human brain hates guessing. Our minds are prediction machines. We constantly attempt to anticipate what another person will do next. When those predictions fail, uncertainty appears. Uncertainty produces anxiety. Anxiety demands information. An unreadable man refuses to provide it. That absence creates psychological pressure more effectively than aggression ever could. This is not about pretending to be cold. It is about understanding how predictability becomes vulnerability. The question is not why some men appear unreadable. The real question is what happened that made them stop allowing people access to their internal world. Every interaction is an exchange. Most people believe they exchange words. In reality, they exchange information. Every facial expression reveals emotional priorities. Every complaint reveals hidden frustrations. Every argument reveals insecurity. Every excitement exposes desire. Without realizing it, people constantly leak psychological data. Someone compliments you, you smile wider than usual. Now they know validation matters. Someone criticizes your appearance. You immediately defend yourself. Now they know appearance matters. Someone ignores your message. You double text. Now they know attention matters. Each reaction becomes a map. Manipulative people read these maps with extraordinary precision, not because they are brilliant psychologists, because most people reveal themselves voluntarily. Unreadable men slowly reduce this flow of information. They don't suppress emotion because emotions are weak. They suppress unnecessary displays because displays create patterns. Patterns become predictions. Predictions become control. When people cannot identify what affects you emotionally, influencing your decisions becomes dramatically more difficult. This is why emotional restraint often appears intimidating. Not because restraint is inherently powerful, because uncertainty forces observers to invent explanations. And those explanations usually reveal more about them than about you. Every habit creates expectation. When people know exactly how you respond, they stop interacting with you. They begin managing you. If they know compliments motivate you, they offer praise before asking favors. If they know rejection terrifies you, they threaten distance. If they know guilt controls you, they remind you of obligations. Your personality becomes a predictable operating system. Most manipulation does not require deception. It requires consistency. The more consistent your emotional reactions become, the easier they are to activate. Unreadable men interrupt this process. Their reactions remain proportional rather than automatic. They pause before speaking. They delay emotional responses. Sometimes they answer immediately. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they smile. Sometimes they remain expressionless. There is no obvious algorithm. Without an algorithm, prediction becomes impossible. And without prediction, manipulation becomes inefficient. Humans naturally seek patterns. When patterns disappear, attention increases. That attention is often mistaken for respect. Sometimes it is. Often it is uncertainty disguised as respect. Most people fear silence because silence removes certainty. Conversation provides constant feedback. Words confirm intentions. Silence provides nothing. When an unreadable man remains silent after criticism, observers become uncomfortable. Was he offended? Did he agree? Is he planning something? Does he simply not care? The mind immediately begins constructing possible explanations. Ironically, silence often creates far more psychological activity than speaking ever could. This is why skilled negotiators tolerate long pauses. Why experienced investigators remain quiet after asking questions. Why emotionally disciplined individuals rarely rush to defend themselves. The first person who feels compelled to fill silence usually reveals the most. Silence is not the absence of communication. It is communication without explanation. And explanation is often where power disappears. Control depends upon dependency. If someone requires your approval, approval becomes leverage. If someone fears losing you, distance becomes leverage. If someone constantly seeks reassurance, uncertainty becomes leverage. The strongest form of manipulation rarely involves force. It involves emotional dependence. Unreadable men often appear detached because they gradually reduce visible dependence. This does not mean they lack emotion. It means their emotional stability becomes increasingly internal. External events no longer dictate immediate emotional expression. Praise does not inflate them. Insults do not instantly provoke them. Attention does not intoxicate them. Rejection does not publicly dismantle them. Observers begin losing confidence in their ability to influence him, and people become uncomfortable around those they cannot emotionally move. Nobody is born unreadable. Children display emotion openly, trust easily, speak honestly, reveal everything. Life changes that. Repeated betrayal teaches caution. Repeated humiliation teaches observation. Repeated manipulation teaches restraint. Eventually, some men stop assuming openness produces connection. Instead, they assume openness creates exposure. Their personality changes, not dramatically. Gradually, they answer fewer unnecessary questions, share fewer future plans, reveal fewer weaknesses, celebrate fewer victories publicly. Not because they distrust everyone, because experience has recalibrated the cost of transparency. The outside world often mistakes this evolution for arrogance. In reality, it is frequently adaptation. People dislike unanswered questions. When information is missing, the brain fills the gaps automatically. This phenomenon explains why unreadable individuals often appear more intelligent, more dangerous, or more confident than they truly are. The observer completes the picture. An ordinary silence becomes confidence. A neutral expression becomes dominance. A delayed response becomes strategic thinking. Very little may actually be happening internally, but uncertainty magnifies perception. Psychologists have long understood that ambiguity encourages projection. People rarely see others objectively. They see their own expectations reflected back. The unreadable man becomes a psychological mirror. Everyone interprets him differently because everyone projects differently. Aggressive people are surprisingly easy to understand. They announce anger immediately. Their emotions become public. Their intentions become obvious. Self-controlled individuals create greater uncertainty. When anger exists but remains invisible, observers cannot calculate consequences. That uncertainty increases caution. History repeatedly demonstrates that disciplined restraint often produces greater influence than emotional explosions. Power is not measured by how intensely someone reacts. It is measured by how completely they choose when to react. Reaction without choice is impulse. Reaction with choice is control. Unreadable men understand this distinction. They recognize that emotions are inevitable, expression is optional, timing determines impact. Every psychological adaptation carries a price. Unreadability protects. It also isolates. People struggle to trust those they cannot understand. Relationships require vulnerability. Connection requires disclosure. When emotional walls become permanent, protection transforms into imprisonment. The man who reveals nothing eventually receives very little in return. Others stop asking, stop trying, stop approaching. His control increases. His intimacy decreases. This is the paradox. The same defense that prevents manipulation can also prevent genuine connection. Psychological armor does not distinguish between enemies and allies. It simply blocks everything.
The most unreadable men rarely set out to become mysterious. They simply stopped rewarding curiosity with access, stopped explaining themselves to people committed to misunderstanding them, stopped reacting on command, stopped allowing every emotion to become public property. They discovered something most people never notice. Control does not begin by controlling others. It begins by controlling what others are allowed to know. The world constantly rewards visibility. It encourages endless disclosure, constant reaction, immediate opinion, and perpetual explanation. But every unnecessary revelation reduces uncertainty. Every predictable reaction creates another point of leverage. Every emotional impulse leaves another psychological fingerprint. The unreadable man understands that attention is not power. Visibility is not strength. Expression is not authenticity. Sometimes the greatest shift in human behavior is almost invisible. A little less explanation, a little less reaction, a little more observation. Eventually people stop believing they understand you. And when certainty disappears, so does much of their ability to predict, pressure, and control. The man has not become emotionless. He has simply become inaccessible to those who mistake information for ownership. That is what makes him appear unreadable. And perhaps that has always been the point.